Hi, everyone. And I am so excited today to be talking with Taylor Barnebey, who has been with Total Wine and More, one of the most important retailers in the United States, for a little bit around 15 years, I think, and who has held, it seems like, Taylor, just about every position at Total Wine and More. And by the way, we want to thank Total so much for being one of our most important supporters of Come Over October. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure
Yeah.
to support. Yeah, it's a fantastic initiative.
Well, thank you. I want to I want to start out by saying you've been involved in wine even before Total. You're a sommelier, for example. And I'm wondering what you think is the single thing that gets people really excited about wine. What
Yeah.
makes people excited?
Yeah. A single thing is tough to boil it down to. I mean, wine as a category crosses across so many different consumers, consumer demographics, and just and how we consume wine and why we consume wine crosses into a lot of different spaces as well. I do think, probably the most general way I could answer that question is wine should enhance the occasion, right? And that can be relaxing by yourself, watching your favorite movie or soap opera. That can be dinner with friends and, livening up that a little bit. That can be dinner with your loved one, and or that can be the perfect pairing with, some fantastic meal. And so there's a lot of different ways that wine can do that, and it's probably challenging to boil that into one way. But at the end of the day, wine has the ability to enhance so many different aspects of our lives, and I think the more that we all experience that, the more we fall in love with wine as a category and as a product.
That's so well put, and you're so right. I mean, I think of, I don't know, standing in my kitchen, drinking something with bubbles in it and eating potato chips, and wine will
Absolutely.
enhance those potato chips.
Yeah.
Or a more, special, I don't know, Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving dinner where it does the same thing, even though one circumstance is a lot more formal, if you will,
Yeah.
than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing about wine, right? Is it fills all those spaces for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
And in today's world, it's a little tricky. I think we've lost some of that messaging a little bit of, how do we make sure that people know, and the consumers out there know all the different occasions that wine can amplify, that wine can enhance. I mean, personally, I love to cook, and when I do, I like really love having a glass of wine in as part of the cooking experience. I'm convinced it makes the food taste better, even if I don't put any in the wine itself.
That is
I'm
my
convinced
definition
that
of a cooking wine. It's the wine you're drinking while you're cooking. Never mind what
absolutely
you put
right.
in.
And so I think it comes back to like that for me, that enhances the experience. My wife's the opposite. She does not like to cook with wine. She's focused, man. She's got she's got a recipe. She's going to town. She's going to knock it out of the park. Um, and so everybody has their moments, right? And we all have these moments in our lives that wine can enhance, and they can be very personal. They can be very broad, and everything in the middle.
Yeah. You know, when I was thinking about this interview this morning, I had almost like a PTSD flashback of how terrified I was as a young woman to go into a retail store to buy wine.
Mm.
And I mean,
Sad
most people,
face as you say that.
yeah, well, it was a long time ago. And
Yeah.
and in those days, I was in New York City, and in those days, New York City wine shops were cavernous, they were hushed. The men in there, and they were all men in there,
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
uh, were extremely intimidating. And but it instilled in me, even now, all these years later, a little bit of a fear going into a wine store.
Hmm.
Now, Total has, I don't know, close to 300 wine stores. So how does Total overcome that? Because I bet there still is a little bit of fear out there.
Yeah, I think, as a category, it is still an intimidating category. And regretfully, right? I
Yeah.
think, there are places that, we can help to solve for that intimidation. And, I would say just industry wide, the more that we as an entire industry can do to make it more welcoming and less intimidating, the better, right? And one of the like it sounds almost too simplistic, but one of the ways to go about that is joy and happiness and friendliness, right? And
Yeah.
and the more that we as a community really work hard to incorporate all of the different aspects of this amazing wine community, right? I think, as a wine community, we've all experienced we can kind of bucket ourselves into different places and, oh, I don't drink that, or, that's too expensive, or that's not expensive enough, or that's imported, that's exported, that's natural wine, that's not natural wine, that has sulfur dioxide, that doesn't, and, I'm in this camp or I'm in that camp. And it can create interesting dialogue. And it also creates a lot of barriers to entry
Mhm.
and some intimidating barriers to entry, because the consumer feels like they have to know the answers to all these questions and all this information about the category in order to make a right choice. When we all know the reality is it's simple. Like wine is good. Like wine tastes good. And that's what, let's start there, right? And like whether it's a $5 bottle of cab that you just picked up because you just want a glass of wine, it still tastes good. Like it's not, you're not picking up a bottle of spoiled milk, right? Which definitely does not taste good, right? And so starting from the point of wine is good. It's a delicious beverage across wherever you purchase from and whatever price point you like and whatever your favorite style is. It's good, and we have to start there, um, and try to pull as much of the risk, because that helps us pull the risk out, right? Of I think in the intimidation factor as well. So the more that we can just level set with people around, wine's an amazing agrarian product, and no matter which bottle you choose, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of skilled people and talent that goes into that, making that, and from any bottle you choose. And it can change and it can goes up. And there's also the discovery aspect of wine, which makes it awesome, right? That's the next step. And if you want to, explore the different wines of Spain, awesome. But
Yeah.
you don't have to.
I think you're so right that joy is infectious, right?
Yeah.
When you see a salesperson, and not just wine, but when you see someone who is so excited about this product. I mean, I recently bought myself a really fantastic grill. And I think I bought it though because the person who sold it to me so loved grilling. And he was so convinced that this was just an amazing grill that I got caught up
Mhm.
happily. He was right,
Yeah, I
but
love it.
it was his joy
Yeah.
that actually kind of pushed me over the edge. I thought, all right, I have to have this grill. Um, but and I think sometimes maybe salespeople can be wine salespeople can
Yeah.
be afraid to show that,
Mm.
afraid to um,
Hmm.
be to really let their enthusiasm come
Yeah.
full throttle out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I think just like that's, I think again, it's something that the category really brings to the table is it does create a lot of passion, and that can be a double-edged sword, right? But if we can harness it in the right way, and the passion really comes out for this is good, and I like this even more, but boy, wait till you try this. You probably
Right,
wouldn't have
right.
heard of it, but oh my goodness, like you
Yeah,
got to check it out.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
that passion is, again, it's such an amazing component of wine, and it's I think it's a big piece of the category. And you're right, it's important. It really is important to not be afraid of that, and to do it in a way, and to communicate it in a way, whether in person or different types of messaging, however we go about it, to do it in a way that it opens the doors rather than making sure we're not, creating
Yeah.
a new hurdle for folks to jump over.
Well, that's very important because let's talk about language for a minute. Um, I've sometimes been in a retail store and and actually I'm terrible about this. I like to pretend that I know nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm counting on no recognition here. Wear a hat, sunglasses, all that stuff. And when people ask me like, what are you looking for? I sometimes think to myself, if I knew what I was looking for, I wouldn't have to be having this conversation. But
Right.
recently I did this and I decided this was possibly a little bit mean. I said to this man, um, I said, I'm looking for a wine kind of like the way Robin Williams was. And I mean, who knows why I even chose
Yeah.
Robin Williams, but I guess I just recently watched again Mrs. Doubtfire. So he got it
That's
immediately. And he
amazing.
said, I've got exactly the wine for you. And I don't even remember what the wine was, although I remember it was delicious. And I thought, this is such an interesting example that almost any language could work. You don't have to use, Psalm language. You don't
Yeah.
have to use Wine Pro language.
Yeah.
You can just say, I want a wine to get the party started, or
Yeah.
whatever. And a good salesperson can dance along with you and
Yeah.
figure out what you actually might like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it said perfectly. Yeah. And again, I think it comes back to the some of the challenges that, reflecting back on, 20 years in the wine business, I think there's been a strong belief, and it's evolving, but there's been a strong belief that communicating the flavors profile of the wine will communicate the value of the wine, right? And I think, um, the evolution of the category and of, how we talk about it and how we connect with consumers is more around those moments, right? Like the value
Mhm.
that the wine offers is more than just the taste. It starts there. Um, but it's so much more than that. So if we only communicate the taste of what it looks like, I want a full-bodied Cabernet, or I like really fruit forward or really earthy. Um, again, you could argue that's foundational a little bit, but I think to your point, there's so much more to it than that. And there's so much more importance that and value that wine can offer. And when you can kind of parse through what those occasions are and how wine might enhance a consumer's lifestyle or world, then again, just opens up some amazing doors. For all of
Absolutely.
us, for the consumers too. I mean, I'm a first and foremost, I'm a wine drinker, and so I really appreciate being able to have all those fun conversations with many different people across so many different aspects of the
Yeah,
bag.
I'm wondering if you can tell when when you're in your store, one of your stores, what can you tell about wine drinkers from their behavior? Like, I was thinking about this
Yeah,
morning because servers will tell you that they can tell a lot about restaurant dining
yeah,
customers by very subtle little signals will allow them to sort of size up a dining customer. So I'm wondering if in a retail situation you can tell something about consumers.
yeah. I don't know. Definitely a different space than the restaurant space. I think consumers will tell you in many ways, and I think that's probably where you're going. Are there some subtle cues and some subtle hints about folks? And you know, it's I think it's just as important that we don't prejudge a little bit. And so I might flip the question a little bit because we can make a lot of mistakes that way,
Mm.
right? And good and bad, right? And so, um, you know, generally speaking, I think the more that um, we as an again as just an industry and as a community take the approach of I want to help people find, the most amazing product for what they're looking for, what's going to help them in their lives. And a lot of times that's questions and comments and I think exactly where you're going, like the commentary that people can have in this category is awesome. Like it really is. And we should embrace that, the more that commentary and the more that we can embrace it, I think the better. And it's not easy because it's intimidating, right? That
Yeah.
intimidating factor is such a hurdle to get over, because if you're just being willing and open to a conversation, it can be challenging for especially a new to wine
Mm.
consumer, who will almost because of the historic intimidation, will almost instinctively kind of question whether they're saying the right things. Are they asking smart questions? Are they listening properly? And and just none of it matters. and and the more that we could just keep breaking down those walls of like, there's no right or wrong. If you like to buy wine because pouring it on top of your head is your favorite thing to do, then you should do that. And if you like to buy wine and pour it into $100 Riedel stem and pair it with just the right cut of steak that you think goes perfectly with this aged Bordeaux, then you should 100% do that, right? And our jobs are to try to figure out what those are, and just help people fulfill those
Yeah.
occasions.
And of course, probably most of us are not a single type of wine drinker either.
Yeah.
You know, the Pinot Grigio and tortilla chip person
Yeah.
could be that person on a Saturday afternoon watching a
Yeah.
game, and be also the Bordeaux and steak person, because wine is applicable to all of these different contexts
A
in life.
thousand percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
How
thousand
do
percent.
you, I'm curious if, because total is so important in the United States, how do you encourage younger and new consumers to kind of come into the store,
Yeah.
even getting someone to come into a store? I
Yeah.
remember when the first edition of the Wine Bible came out, my publisher said to me, "Do you realize what it takes to get people to walk in off the sidewalk into a bookstore? It starts there. It's
Yeah.
not, never mind, are they going to buy your book? Just
Yeah.
getting them in the bookstore is hard."
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
that's true
Yeah, I think
for
we
you.
want to make the shopping occasion as fun and as
Yeah.
enjoyable and as happy as we possibly can, right? And we talk a lot about amplifying joy and our role in that. We've done a lot of marketing and advertising work around. Um, Internally we call it the total wine jingle, right? And then taking that and turning it into a video advertisement, where we had a rock band in the store, right? And the rock band's kind of going playing the jingle, going through, customers are dancing and engaging in the category. um, and so, like that's, to us, that's who we are. Like we are a joyful, connected brand that just matters, right? And so I think, going back to your original kind of commentary on, the the almost stereotypical now, but maybe back kind of commonplace wine store with old men in tight suits and nose kind of in the air and things like that. We're going to break all that down. We're going to break all that apart, and our messaging to our consumers shows that, right? I mean, that's we're very wide open on what we're trying to do. We have this amazing fun environment, and we're going to communicate that as best as we can in all of our different advertising as well.
Yeah, and you could make the case. I mean, I personally think it's true that, and I think a lot of research by Wine Market Council and other entities has shown that as the impact of critics have declined in the
Mhm.
US in the last 10 to 15 years,
Yeah,
the importance of retailers and being able to establish a relationship with
yeah,
someone in a wine store who becomes your buddy, your friend, who turns you on to different things, has become more and more and more important.
yeah.
It's really the place of retailers today is a place of great power and influence.
Yeah, I think so. And I would broaden it even. I think it's the industry as a whole. Like I think we all have the ability to do that. I mean, the amount of people that come into our stores looking for specific products is massive, right? It's huge, in a great way. And it's because or I was going to start to give some examples of how they've heard about it, but I should start by saying how they've heard about it or these different products or why they're excited about it has evolved and is evolving almost monthly, right? And that's fantastic. And we want to be doing more of that, just industry wide, us included. Like we want to be included in that conversation as well. Um, but the more that, we as part of an industry can connect with different consumers around what they're in a way that really matters to them. Um, that's why you shop, right? And whether that's a specific brand, like the work, this is a little bit outside of the wine space, but what the work that Buzzballs has done to kind of build a brand in a very different way is super informative and super helpful, I think, for everyone to look at. And that's just one of many examples, right? And so, how we're thinking about that and how we're thinking about connecting with consumers is it almost has to be consumer centric. There's not a lot of golden rules there.
My heart goes out to wineries too, though, who are working so hard to realize, as they would say, the voice of a place for fine wine. And that's different a bit than solving the issue of,
Correct.
what wine to bring when I go to Aunt Betty's for Thanksgiving. But the good news, I suppose, is that both are possible,
Absolutely.
and and sometimes they can be possible even simultaneously.
Yeah.
So yeah, Taylor, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's
Yeah.
been terrific talking with you. And I mean, we at Come Over October know how hard Total is working to keep great wine front and center and available for Americans. So we're grateful for those stores. It's like being a kid in a candy shop, actually.
Yeah.
I want to thank
Adult
you again.
Disneyland, we like to call it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so
Cool.
much, Taylor.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time.